Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGig webinar series, our endeavor to empower techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key to enhance our skills and grow us as professionals. With this principle in mind, we have initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give you all a crisp insight of various domains. The topic of today's session is Journey to the Cloud CRM from Enterprise CRM, and it is the 17th session of Cloud Computing series. Our guest speaker today is Dinesh Chandrasekhar, Director Consulting Services at Hitachi Consulting GDC. Dinesh Chandrasekhar has over 15 years of rich IT experience in CRM, MDM and BI implementations, management consulting and strategic advisory services to CXOs. He is currently heading the Hitachi Consulting GDC CRM and MDM practice. In his current role, he is actively involved in the practice enrichment, pre-sales and delivery of CRM and MDM project executions across the globe. Dinesh is passionate about CRM, digital art and coaching. So without further delay, I introduce you all to our guest speaker. Over to you, Dinesh.
For taking out time in attending this session. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dinesh Chandrasekhar. First of all, I thank you everyone for attending this presentation. And today we are going to talk about journey to the Cloud CRM from Enterprise CRM. Without any further delay, I think Mokni has already introduced me. So just a brief introduction about what we are doing today. So Hitachi Consulting is one of the leading CRM and MDM experts, and we have implemented more than 200 CRM and MDM projects. And we are also one of the leading players in the Fusion CRM, and we are also internally implementing Fusion CRM. Okay, so this presentation is just to give you an overview about what it takes to implement a cloud CRM. Okay. So today most of us, right, we have been very much into implementing an enterprise CRM, be it an Oracle CRM, Siebel, PeopleSoft, SAP, Microsoft. And this is something that has come new, like a Fusion, Salesforce, Microsoft Dynamics. So a lot of questions, why there is a shift today? Why we need to implement the cloud CRM? And why as a technocrats and professional, we need to adopt this new technology? So a lot of questions before us, and I will try to answer some of them. And if you feel that if you have any further questions, we can have it at the end of the presentation, or you can also post some of these questions to my mail ID. Okay. So the agenda for today's session is what it means for an enterprise to have a cloud or a SaaS CRM. Second, how to cut a cloud CRM strategy. What are the options we have today in the cloud CRM market? And how do I implement a cloud CX? So the CRM itself, now it's been called as customer experience. And what are the do's and don'ts of cloud CRM migration from enterprise CRM? And the most importantly, as an IT professional, what you need to do or what I need to do to make a successful career in the cloud CRM world. So this is the agenda for today. So it's very interesting actually. If you look at the Gartner report, which was a year back in 2012, they told that actually 40% of all the CRM software that was sold were SaaS-based, cloud-based. And the SaaS CRM is one of the fastest growing application market, right? And a lot of enterprises today are now replacing their enterprise CRM with the SaaS CRM. And also they see the SaaS CRM gives them an extensibility to the social media connect and mobility. So if you look at the enterprise CRM, it has got robust functionality, but unfortunately it doesn't extend itself to some of the social media mobility. Some of the applications do have some extension, but it's not an 100% extension to all of this. So they call it as a social cloud analytics and mobility. So the cloud CRM today is attacking those areas. That's the reason it is gaining more popularity. The other most important aspect of cloud is that if you look at the cloud, it is actually shifting the projects from a CapEx project to an OpEx project. So when I say CapEx, it is capital expenditure projects, and OpEx is an operational expenditure project. So anybody who wants to implement a CRM, they always look at they should have some $1 million go for any enterprise CRM. Today the cloud has changed it, right? They need to go for a subscription model, even though they would spend something on the implementation, but majority of the expenditure is going to be operational. Okay, so what is SaaS or a cloud CRM? So application service providers has come a long way since the .com, right? And SaaS or a cloud-based business is predominantly run on the internet. Like, it is not new. Say for example, we used our Hotmail, Yahoo, and all this. Predominantly all these are delivered from the internet. So SaaS or CRM cloud, it's not something new. It's just that the applications are now being put on the internet. And the service providers, be it Oracle, Microsoft, or Salesforce, they're not very much looking into making a license money out of this application. They're looking at a subscription model. That means a sustainable revenue for both the product vendors as well as for the company actually. So when they start, as the expenditures come down for the company, the subscriptions of the users increases actually, because they can offer today a CRM at a rate of like $75 to $100, which was not possible earlier. Okay, so that's the advantage of the cloud CRM. Okay, so what is once again the question, what I would get out of a SaaS or a cloud CRM? Suppose if you're running a CRM in your premise, at your enterprise level, you need to take care of all the patch and release management. If the application comes down, you should have your internal IT department to jump on it and fix it, right? And the other part is that you also have to keep yourself abreast in upgrading the application, right? And these two important critical aspects are now being taken care by the product vendors. Say for example, if you take a Salesforce or Fusion CRM, the entire release management is taken care by the respective vendor. So whenever a new product is released, automatically it is available to all the users who subscribe for the application. And also you could see that the version compatibility, right? It's the same version and same functionality which has been given to a broader audience, right? And also it is available globally. You need not worry about, I have some users in Europe, I have some users in Asia Pacific, and I have some users in India. How I am going to take care? All they need to is just to log in, and you would see all that's being upgraded, it is available for them. Okay, so as I mentioned to you, the total cost of ownership of having a SaaS CRM, right? The ability to move it from a CapEx and OpEx, it's because it's charged per user and low upfront cost and subscription based. In the subsequent slides, I will show you the advantage of moving from an enterprise CRM to a SaaS based CRM. Okay, so take a look at this slide. Okay, so you see onto your left the enterprise CRM, onto your right the cloud CRM. Okay, so in any implementation project, right, you look at three important things. One is your implementation risk and how quick I can break even of the investment of the made, and when I would start recognizing the return on investment of my implementation and increase value to the customer. So majority of you would agree, if you have worked in any of this enterprise CRM projects, normally it takes a long time to implement, right? I have not seen any CRM project which is up for a large scale enterprise. It would take anywhere between 12 to 18 months. If it's a mid-size enterprise, it would take anywhere between 6 to 12 months. So there was never a time where we talk about going live on a CRM within a 3 or 4 months time. That's what happens with an enterprise CRM. But if you look at a cloud CRM, the people are talking about a go live time of 12 weeks, 16 weeks, 14 weeks, right? However the complex requirements they have, they could say that they can go live at a lesser time and start realizing the value. At the same time, the break even, right? So for enterprise CRM, where you would have spent $2 million, $3 million in implementing a CRM, and when you look at the return on investment of that, it would take at least 2.5 years or 3 years to realize that the return on investment of the particular application. But if you take a cloud, partly it would take 6 months for you to start realizing the value. So end of that, what it means to the customer is that increased value to the customer. In addition to that, whatever that you have today on the cloud, right, it is going to take care of some of the new technologies, be it a Net 2.0 or it's a kind of a mashup integration we're talking about. You're keeping yourself abreast to the technology. So when the technology grows, your company also moves in the same direction. So you need not worry about keep upgrading your technology even now and then, because subscribing to a advanced application on the cloud, it means that they will take you along the way when they're doing the product development. Okay, and I'm on to the next slide. Okay, so it's a small, they would say like an iceberg, right? So what you would see is a tip of an iceberg, right? Which is the tip of an iceberg is what it would cost you to implement a SaaS CRM. But when you go for an enterprise CRM, lot of companies, they realize that it's not just software licenses and implementation cost. In addition to that, they need to spend on hardware, infrastructure, personnel, maintenance, and training. So in addition to the cost, which what you see a lot of hidden cost, especially when you have an integration, right? You need to provision for a middleware. You need to have take care of the system upgrades, application administrators, as well as the people, right? You need to have a set of people who is going to manage your application. So all these are hidden cost for an on-premise application. But for the SaaS CRM, I wouldn't say all this costs are waived off, but at least to an extent you know what is that you're going to spend. Maybe it could be a 5 to 10% over and above your estimate, but you're never going to end up something like whatever that you estimated for a 1 million, and you end up spending 3 million on projects. That's what normally happens in the large-scale enterprise CRM projects. Okay, so this is a little for the guys who are actually in the pre-sales, right? So I've been confronted with a lot of questions when I go to my existing customers and talk about the Cloud CRM. They say, hey, it's 2 years back, you just came and said that this is the application which you need to implement, and now you're coming back and saying I need to move to a Cloud CRM, right? So where comes the customer, actually you need to justify it, right? So a lot of customers still have this doubt, actually, would I be able to fit my CRM system into the cloud? So for that, first you need to understand, figure out how the Cloud CRM fits into the enterprise current technology environment, into the current data, into the overall process and operating model environment. That's important, because you cannot go and just say that, yes, the rest of the customers are moved to the cloud and you also need to move to the cloud. You need to understand the customer's environment. The second most important is that majority of these Cloud CRMs are built based on the business processes, right? So that's important actually. For example, most of these applications comes with a robust business process accelerators. So even, for example, I am Fusion certified and majority of my consultants are Fusion certified. So when you start developing a Fusion CRM application, we wouldn't go and start developing a module. We would start developing process, right? So some of the set of the process, we would take that process and start developing those process. That's the advantage of having the Cloud CRM based application. And the most important is the customer needs to understand. See, a lot of customers have implemented the enterprise CRM, right? For them, it is a kind of a write-off cost. If you're asking them, shelve your enterprise CRM and go for a Cloud CRM, you need to make them understand it is a one-time wave of which you're going to do, but over the period of 5 years or 6 years, your entire expenditure of maintaining the enterprise CRM is going to come down. Okay, so you can almost save 40 to 60% of the money which you spend year on year in maintaining your enterprise CRM. And the most important part is that when we talk about anything on the cloud or SaaS, we are moving away from a CRM. We are actually talking about a customer experience and to an extent an employee experience, right? When an employee is there, he need not install anything in his laptop. He need not worry about when this application is going to break, right? He can be able to access this with his laptop, with his mobile. Even if some of the application also gives you a provision to work on a disconnected mode. Okay, it's like, for example, some of the apps which you have in your mobile where you can do the work and synchronize it later. So this is some of the advantage which you need to take it to the customer when you talk about the cloud. Okay, so a lot of questions, right? For example, when I remember 2 years back when we talked about some of the Cloud CRM applications, a lot of questions were asked about it. How about the security of the application? And most important is that when you say something is not running in the enterprise or on-premise, a lot of questions would come asking, how do I control my applications, right? And the next question is that reliability. How do I rely on this application? If something breaks down and the entire sales operation comes for a standstill. And then the other question is lock-in period, right? A lot of customers fear that if they start using a product of a Microsoft, an Oracle, or a CP, right, on a subscription mode, they're almost getting locked, right? So these are some of the questions which were predominantly asked during the period. Now the system vendors have come up with all the justifications to make sure that giving a right perspective to the customer, like they would have control, they would have the reliability, and there will not be any lock-on period as well as the security. Some of the vendors have actually certified the data centers, right? So you take any standards, right? All these data centers of Oracle, Microsoft, Salesforce, all being certified. And they also give you an option of going for a private cloud, which means you can carve out your own data and applications that you want to recur in a data center. Or if you can also choose to go for a public cloud. The public cloud still doesn't mean that they will not have access to the sorry guys, actually, sorry, some interruption. So the public cloud doesn't mean that the data would get accessed by other people. Not. There is a lot of security that has been implemented by the vendors to make sure the data is not getting shared. Okay. So the other question is that why these people are moving towards the cloud? Okay. The most important thing is that it's been debated a lot of time what an enterprise should do. An enterprise should focus on its business or should focus on the IT and technology. I would say for any enterprise, other than an IT company or a system integrator, they need to focus on the right business. If it's a consumer goods company, they should make sure that they are focusing their attention and energy on the consumer goods products and make sure they do a lot of R&D on the products rather than trying to implement a new solution, develop an IT harm within the enterprise to manage all this application. So the most important part here is that the cloud gives us the opportunity to continue to focus on the core competency, and rest of the IT stuff is being taken care of by the system vendors. Okay, so then comes the most important question of the security, right? So today the cloud gives us the provision to use a lot of this Net 2.0 features, right? It has got a robust UI. When you look at any of this cloud application, you almost get the feel of you're accessing anything like a Facebook or like your Hotmail or Live, and a lot of this, some of the advanced websites actually, right? Which was not available earlier. When you use an Enterprise CRM, normally you would have seen some of the dull screens that are coming up actually, right? But clouds with the 2.0 provisioning, you would see the screens, that UI is very much enriched. And you can also have the provision to integrate with Facebook or any of this using a social listener. And the best part is it also gives you a mobility access. Okay, so of all that, how could I take care? Because all this data and application, everything is running in one of the secure data centers by the respective vendors. So they make sure that when any of your when you subscribe for any of these services, all your data and application configurations, whatever you're doing, it's being secured. So that's the most important part of the security. And the other thing is the rapid deployment. Okay, so if you take any of this SaaS-based CRM, it helps you to rapidly deploy this application. And not only the rapid deployment, if you look at one time you develop, and it could be accessed with your laptop, with your mobile, and any of the other handheld devices. Okay, so if you look at the Enterprise CRM, you have to develop a separate application for your laptop, and if you want to have something running in your PDA devices, you need to have a separate applet that is being designed. But with SaaS provisioning, right, you have to develop once and you can deploy it anywhere. Okay, the most important part here is the system integrators, right? So of all said, are we going to say that the system integrator is he going to have The complete control of the Cloud CRM. Yes, of course, you are going to have a complete control of the Cloud CRM application. So that's where you should see that if you take any of the products like a Fusion or a Salesforce, it gives you a flexibility of a development environment, right? You can develop, you can customize, and you can deploy. Only on the deployment stage, the product vendors gives you an environment where whatever that's been developed, you can be able to deploy it safely in the vendor environment. And also you need a system integrator to walk you through to understand some of the basic business processes which you need to use, because the SaaS, as we said, it will allow you to customize, but it will not allow you to customize against the best practices, right? So there are some boundaries that have been defined. The system integrators play a key role in making sure the customer understands those boundaries and they're able to implement the system according to the standards. Okay, so this is one more slide. Okay, I just borrowed it from the Microsoft, where beautifully depicting about the cloud, actually, right? So, what are the top 3 reasons people are considered to go for cloud, right? Reducing IT staffing cost, reducing infrastructure cost, and supporting unpredictable workloads. And if you look at the top 3 concerns, which we talked about, the security, loss of control, and the cost. In addition to that, there are a lot of opportunities you would see. For example, if you take a Microsoft Dynamics, it gives you fantastic flexibility for you to integrate with your Office products. Also the Oracle products like a Fusion. Whatever today, for example, you have an integration between the Fusion CRM and an Outlook, you need not open your Fusion CRM application at all. Whatever you do in the Outlook integration, Outlook automatically gets integrated with your Fusion CRM. Okay, say for example, I want to create an opportunity for a contact. So what you need to do is just go to your contacts in the Outlook, and you will see there is an opportunity tab that is presented here. Pick up the contact and start entering the opportunity, put the dollar value, and start entering the activities as a calendar item. And you see this is automatically synchronized with Fusion CRM. The same is the case with Microsoft Dynamics or for Salesforce, right? So it gives an inbuilt integration to a lot of the products, not only for the Outlook and Microsoft products. There are a lot of other accelerators. If you see, for example, the Salesforce Apps Exchange, the Apps Exchange today has more than 100,000 vendors have registered the product, right? And it also gives you a flexibility to buy some of the apps and start integrating them, right? It could be like, for example, a revenue management. So a Fusion CRM, sorry, a Salesforce application can have an app which could do kind of a revenue management for them, which could be integrated. Okay, on to the next slide. So if you look at how do I go about implementing a Fusion CRM or a Cloud CRM. Sorry, I continue to take the Fusion CRM name. Sorry for that. Okay, so first thing what we need to understand is that when you're working with any of your customers or a prospect, first you need to cut a strategy, right? You need to start understanding what is actually fits for them, right? It's not that they have to go to the cloud, right? So you need to have an understanding with the customer, what are the options and what are the different times they want to take a different application to the cloud. It could be a CRM system, it could be an HCM system. So confirm and align strategy. First you need to get the commitment from the leadership team. Then design and plan. You should also get the solution sponsored and build and deliver. The most important thing is that actually it is not just getting onto the cloud. You should make sure your salesperson and service person have started using that. Operate and improve. This comes the beauty actually, right? So cloud, the most of the application you would see that the acceptance of this application would come only when the users start using it over and over and again. Okay, that's the way. So in the cloud gives you a provision that just on a subscription-based model, you can have as many users you want, and you can also give us an option to actually reduce some of the users in case if it's not required. Okay, and I would say at an engagement level, when you go about implementing a cloud CRM, there are 3 stages to that. One is a cloud consulting, cloud enablement, and core cloud. Okay, almost in alignment with what we discussed on the transformation journey stages. Okay, so first. Going by my experience, right? So I've seen some of the customers actually who are running on Enterprise CRM. The first question that comes is that they want to just cut the entire thing what they have done on Enterprise CRM and want to take it to the cloud. That is not the strategy at all. Because the cloud CRM, any application if you take, they all developed based on the best practices, based on experience of multiple customers whom they have interacted. So some of the redundant applications, some of the redundant views and screens which you have developed in your application may not necessarily be have to be put on the cloud, right? That's what majority of the cloud CRM applications are driven by the business processes, not by the screens and modules. So first you need to understand what are the redundant things which I have in my enterprise CRM that has to be removed. The second important thing which you need to do is that, yes, I have an enterprise CRM. Do I need to retire it, or I need to have a coexistent model? A lot of times it is good to start small on a cloud space. What I mean is that you can go with some of the modules in the cloud, and some of it you can integrate with your existing CRM system. As we move on, start using the cloud, as your user teams develop the confidence on the cloud CRM, you can slowly start decommissioning one module after the other and get the entire thing on the cloud. Okay, and all the cloud implementation, I would say, has to be done on agile methodology, right? I'm not saying because this you have to do it in it's a must to do in agile methodology, but what is most important here is that as and when you develop something on a cloud environment, go and show it to the customer, right? And try to rectify some of the things at the early stages, because you may not get a chance like we do in enterprise CRM, where we collect the requirements, design, develop, and finally go to the user acceptance stage. It's not the way with the cloud. As and when something is developed, you need to have a business case, show the use cases, and show the development that is being done. Okay, and most important is that, as I mentioned to you, you should not take everything at one point, right? You should take certain things which you feel that there could be a quick wins on the cloud that has to be implemented first, and try to give the value to the customer. And the most important, the other part is that the infrastructure and the application is well managed by the vendor. But at the same time, you should make sure the user adoption is there for the subscribed users. Because whether it's an enterprise CRM or a cloud CRM, what really works is that when a user start using the application, however the beautiful the application you might have, it may not work if the users are not using that application. Okay, so that's what I mentioned in my next slide. Adoption is the key. Okay, and there are some things which you can use to increase the enthusiasm of the user. Say, for example, today, if you look at a Microsoft Dynamics, it gives a seamless integration to the Office applications. It gives a seamless integration to the SharePoints and Microsoft 360-degree. So what it gives is that it increases the collaboration within the CRM application. Okay, in that way, the users are becoming more interactive, right? They're using it like a Facebook. When they're working on an opportunity, they would start putting the comments on the opportunity, right? So there is a lot of fun moments when they start using the application, and that moreover, they will be using it as a social media application than as a SaaS CRM. Okay, that is important. And the other one is that the application gives you a flexibility to run it on a mobile, or run it on your iPad, or run it on your any of your tablets, right? That gives a flexibility to the user. They do not open the laptop every time. So whenever they want to access the information pertaining to them, there are multiple options to do that, either using their Outlook, either using their iPad, or using the Android tablet. A lot of options are available. That also helps the customer to improve the adaptability. Okay, now comes the most important question. How do I implement the cloud's CX application or a solution? Okay, so this is some of the cloud queries which we ask to ourselves as well as to the customers when we are doing a kind of consulting to make them understand what the next steps they need to do. Okay, a SaaS implementation for ERP and CRM is a big deal, right? So far we talked about it's easy and all this, but at the same time, I wanted the customer to understand it's a great transformation which they're going through, right? It's a big deal, and they want to give the complete importance to this exercise. Okay, so but before even talking about implementing, some of the questions which you need to ask to the customer is that what applications are involved, right? It's not just the cloud CRM, right? I need to also have a lot more other applications to be integrated. And where is the data stored? Okay, for example, as you know, in the cloud CRM, you will be automatically storing the data in the vendor provided database, but other data, right? How it's going to flow to my system? What kind of response time is needed? Okay, so one thing which is very important, why we should go for a reliable vendor is the reason is that for an Oracle or SAP or a Microsoft, they have a lot of capability to set up the data center and also able to expand the the infrastructure as and when required. So the response time is actually directly proportionate to the amount of infrastructure capability the vendor has, right? So if, for example, normally I would say a window of a maintenance over 4 hours within a 3 months time is something is acceptable. But if you're having an issue week on week where the vendor sends you a message saying that we are actually going to do some maintenance, then the business which are running 24/7 will have a major impact. And batch data updates tend to be relatively easy, and we try to make sure that what is going to be a batch data, what is going to be a real-time integration, right? And and one more thing which we need to also understand is that even though there is nothing like a compulsion to go for the same system vendor for all the cloud-based applications. Say, for example, you have something HCM running on Fusion, you have CRM running on a Salesforce, right? But what would happen normally here is that if there is a different time window of maintenance, right, and it becomes it becomes difficult to make sure when they have an integration where the one vendor has a downtime and the other vendor has an uptime. So when you try to integrate, there's possibly little failure. So when you're doing a cloud alignment strategy, make sure you select the right vendor who could provide a lot of these cloud-based applications. So cloud ERP and cloud CRM, be it with one single vendor, it would give you some advantage. And what are the security requirements, right? So a lot of, for example, the banks, for a bank, the security requirements are different. For a consumer goods company, the security requirements are different. So it is also good to talk to the particular system vendor to understand would they be able to provide the particular security requirement which is reliable to their industry. And most important question is that how much customization do you need, right? As I said, in the cloud-based, you have a provision to do the customization, but not that whatever you want to customize, it will be actually be taken by the vendor. So there could be some rejection because it may not fit the best practice. Okay, so you should understand, and that's where an SI comes in place. Actually, would help you what could be customized and what could be the out-of-the-box functionality that could be used. And there are a lot more other questions. The most important question which is asked in the cloud CRM space today is that how do I integrate my application with the enterprise application? So you should also understand the cloud integration platforms which are available today and which particular vendor whom you are going with is providing you the right platform. Say, for example, if you take an Oracle, the Fusion middleware is now being used as an authenticated integration platform for the Fusion CRM, right? So they have not only the CRM application, they're also giving you a provision for you to integrate. So when you license that, it gives you takes care of the complete flexibility which you would get for an enterprise CRM. Okay, so what are the next steps actually? What I should be doing? Then, see, as I said, for any project, right, not only on a SaaS or a cloud project, where you need to spend a lot of your time, a lot of your energy is during the design and plan phase. That's where the best of the brains, both from the SIs as well as from the customer, has to come together. And it requires an operating model for a medium and large SaaS installation comes as a surprise to many executives who are expecting a quick returns from SaaS. But you cannot sidestep the exercise of creating an implementation governance structure and operating model for SaaS. Okay, so you would have heard a lot about the data governance structure, and there's a lot more governance team which comes into a transformation project. Like that, it's also good to have a governance structure within the organization because the cloud is something new, right? And it requires a constant reinforcement both from the executive team as well as the operational team to understand more about the cloud, right? So for that, you need to have a governance team. As they expand, even though the product is taken care by the vendor, the governance team will understand which direction we are taking, right? Or the particular vendor is supporting me, or my team is supporting me. Do we have the right IT capability within the organization? That's all has to be evaluated. Okay, and as I mentioned, one thing in the cloud which gives you a lot of flexibility is to develop the UIs. As I mentioned, most of it are actually the functional setups because all these screens are being pre-built. That is, say for example, it is not like when you develop a Siebel or SAP or Microsoft, you should start with each screen and start developing the framework, the fields, the logic and all this. So majority of it is already available in the cloud. right? So you will try to make sure you follow the right setups to configure the application. And as I mentioned, the most important part here is the integration. So when you chalk out the cloud strategy, make sure which are all the integration strategies and platforms which you're going to use. Okay, so the last come is that once you're done with your implementation and you are onto the application, the most important thing is that you should start evaluating the application, right? And see where are the places where you could improve the application performance. Okay, a quick preview of the top SaaS-based CRM providers. Majority of it you already know. Okay, so but if you see, the space is getting narrowed day by day because a lot of acquisitions are happening and all this. And I predict within a period of 3 to 4 years, you would see only 5 to 6 vendors offering this cloud-based CRM applications. Okay, so one thing which you need to decide when you go for the cloud-based application is that check the vendor has got the right ingredient, not just the application, in terms of the infrastructure, in terms of the reliability, in terms of the number of years they are in business. Okay, all these are very, very important when you try to choose one of these vendors. Okay, we talked a lot about doing things on the cloud, and normally what are the cloud challenges today, right? That also we need to look at. It's not that all that is good about the cloud. Okay, so there are some challenges still exist. So evaluate the cloud integration options before you finalize the migration plan. It is very important because a lot of places the people fail because they really underestimate the importance of integration just by going by what the vendor says. So you should ask how I would integrate. For example, if you take the Oracle platform, they give something called an Oracle Enterprise repository. So what it does is that the Oracle Enterprise repository, it contains all the web services which you're going to use. Say for example, if I want to use something like a campaign to cache. So the campaign to cache has got set of business processes, code, as well as the web services. Say for example, when I use developing a JDeveloper, writing some kind of a validation script, from the Oracle Enterprise repository, I would get a Java code by using the web service which they have given. So when I just need to embed that particular service name or object name, automatically the code expands. Similarly, you've got a lot of the inbound and outbound XMLs as well, which could be used. And the most important part is the need for 24/7 availability with no exclusion for maintenance. This is also very important. Still, I would say that nobody has achieved the 24/7 at a stretch of like 3 months or 6 months. Right? But at least for some of the vendors like an Oracle, Microsoft, or SAP, at least they make sure there is no minimum interruption to the business. They will do it 3 months or 6 months time. And as you look at, one advantage is everything is driven by the business process. At the same time, for you to adopt a cloud CRM application, you also need to do a lot of the business process re-engineering. Right? Some of the business processes which are left to the mercy of the application, enterprise applications, it has to be reworked to make sure the best practices are adopted. So from that context, we need to understand how much of the business process which have been recommended by the particular cloud vendor really suits to your business. Okay, and as you said, you need to have a new system, not only a new system in place, a new set of team which can support the system. Right? So all your people who are actually being trained in a once respective enterprise CRM technology needs to be retrained on this. And most important is a well thought about a change management program. Right? So any system, whether it's a cloud or an enterprise system, it will be successful only when they have a change management program in place. Especially when you have a sales reps going to use this application, it's going to be a lot of a job to make the sales guys to transition from one system to another, unless they're seeing a very convincing proposition from the product. Right? SaaS gives it options, but make sure these guys are being trained well and the message goes from the top to the bottom. Right? If you try to do it as a department-wise, it may not be successful. The top management has to be very much supportive to make sure the SaaS CRM is successful. Business continuity and disaster recovery programs, right? So a lot of people talk about when they have an application in their premises, there's a lot of opportunity for you to control some of these things, right? But when you are actually outsourced the entire thing to a vendor, you should make sure you understand how they're going to take care when anything goes wrong, right? So read the rules and guidelines and make sure not only as a customer, as a system integrators or a cloud developers, we should understand which vendor gives you which kind of a provision if something goes wrong. Data encryption to and from SaaS providers data center, right? So sometimes there could be a challenge where you may be looking at encrypting a data. If you're running something on Enterprise CRM, a lot of this encryption information or information configuration could be done by you, but when you go for a SaaS-based application, they will not give you that provision to encrypt a lot of this data. So you need to understand what of this data I need to encrypt and check with the vendor as well as an SI to make sure whether some provision is given, or try to find out any kind of a tool that could help us you to do the data encryption. Okay. On to the next stream, I've just given one example of how normally the integration happens in the cloud space, right? So here you see a Fusion HCM application, and this Fusion HCM application is integrated with Taleo, which is once again a talent-based cloud talent application, right from the Oracle stack. And you also see this, both these cloud applications are already integrated with eBusiness Suite HR. Right? So this is, I call, an integration between cloud and a cloud application, as well as an integration between a cloud and an on-premise application. Today, the reality is that every customer has to go through this, right? They cannot completely decommission the on-premise application and go on the cloud. They first have to start small and try to go on some of the parts which they think they could have a quick win and integrate that with their enterprise CRM. So I've taken an Oracle example. It could be with Microsoft or it could be with SAP. Okay, so do's and don'ts of cloud CRM migration from on-premise. What are the do's? First, create a plan and operating model first before migration, which we discussed. Negotiate the right contract with the vendor. So you should be upfront, making sure whatever that you are looking for, you're getting it from the vendor. Because once you have subscribed, you have no choice but to accept what a vendor is providing. Follow right implementation approach. So I recommended Agile, but there are companies like which they feel Agile is not the right methodology. They should find out which approach is good for them. Get in place a proper change management practices for smoother transition. Adopt right data security policies, right? So yes, first make sure that, as I said, yes, the data once it goes to the cloud and data centers, it will be secure. But the integration platform which you are using, make sure the data is not getting taken away from this transition that happens between the cloud and an on-premise application. So make sure your middleware or whatever that custom integration which you're going to build should have enough security in place to make sure the data goes into between the right applications. And don'ts, don't rush into the implementation of Cloud CRM without a complete understanding, right? So a lot of customers, they just want to be on the cloud, so just they start the initiative without understanding the what all the pros and cons of going into the cloud. So they need to be very clear on that. And don't stop communicating, right? So as I said, when you're doing something on the cloud, the people should not think that actually they're going to lose their jobs. And most importantly, when they've been associated in maintaining an application for a long time and they feel that their control is going off from that particular application, there will be a lot of insecurity. So you should make sure, both as a customer as well as an SI, nothing is lost. What they need to do is that adopt to this new application, which is far more easier compared to an enterprise CRM, where enterprise CRM you need to have a different skill set of knowledge, whereas in cloud, you still have to have a different skill set, but it's not that wide, right? You need to concentrate on few areas and still you can enhance your career in the cloud CRM space. And most important, I keep reiterating again and again, don't forget to understand the agreement clauses and SLAs with the vendor before signing the contract. right? So if you have something which is actually very, very important for you, make sure that it gets into the contract, both with the SI as well as with the customer. Okay, so the last and the most interesting part is that as an IT professional, right, what I need to do. So this is some of it which is based on my experience as well as my consultants, right, who actually certify. So what I think is that it's a complete DNA shift, right? We were used to developing something, deploying it something which we could have control on, both as an SI as well as a customer. Now, there are certain things which you have control, certain things you don't have a control. And certain things you have to do it on certain time frame, right? So a lot of things would change. And the technology is a paradigm shift on the technology, right? So today, a lot of things, there was a custom proprietary development tool for all of this enterprise CRM. Now we are getting into more of an open system tools, be it a Java, be it any of the, like for example, if you're using it into a big data, a lot of the open platforms are coming in space, and I think this is the platforms which will be leveraged in the further development as well. Okay, so what should I do? The most important is that you choose the application where you want to build your career. It could be a Microsoft, it could be a Salesforce, it could be an Oracle, it could be an XY application service provider. But make sure you select the right and see that this particular application has got a long lease of life. Right? It should not so happen that you build your expertise on one application and this application is being acquired, or it's been acquired and modified, or this is no more in the market, it's went bankrupt and all this. There are a lot of examples today we have seen. A lot of companies which are one-time success in the market, today they are not there. So choose the right product vendor and enhance your skills. And certification on cloud implementation modules. So it goes back to the old days actually, right? So for example, when I started my career in Siebel 15 years back, the Siebel certification was a big thing, right? So for any technology, in the initial stages, certification matters. So, and it wouldn't cost much, right? The cost of programs which were 10 years back, it's almost 1/10 of the cost. So choose one of the certification which you think it's relevant, which is good for you, go for the certification. And most important is that actually analytical, right? Say for example, social cloud mobility analytics, which is very much part of the cloud CRM. You cannot avoid, right? So you make sure not only just you focus on your CRM skills, you also pick up your analytics skills. And strong web development skills. So when I say strong web development skills, it's not about developing a website or anything. We're talking about an user experience, how to enrich the user experience, right? So when you develop something, be it a portal or be it a cloud CRM application, make sure it has got the high usability, right? Where the customer should like the user interface. So that we should have some skills around it. And knowledge and data migration and integration. So you have seen in a CRM space, in the enterprise CRM, you would have specialists for data migration, you would have specialists for integration, you have specialists for UI configuration. Now the world is shrinking, right? Now they would just say, I need a cloud CRM consultant who can develop a UI, who can take care of the data migration, who can take care of the integration, right? So make sure you get a holistic knowledge of all three spaces. And strong customer handling skills. As I mentioned, the cloud projects actually requires a lot of conference room pilot. You need to sit day in, day out with the customer, make him understand the business process. And majority of the projects are going to be like coexistence projects. Okay, so this coexistence projects requires you to understand both the on-premise application as well as the cloud CRM application, because they're going to be staying together, integrated, right? So you need to be day in, day out. You need to interact with the customer, right? That will surely will help you to increase your consulting skills. An ability to customize data model for CRM system. Okay. This is very important, even though, as I said, there is not much of customization which is required for any of the SaaS-based or a cloud-based application. In case if you have to do a customization, right, then you need to understand the complete architecture, right? It's not just knowing the UI development or a couple of entities and all this. You need to have a very thorough understanding of the data model of this application. And most important thing is that, as I said, it is not that we are going to run away from an enterprise CRM from the day one. So you may be having a background in any of the enterprise CRM. You need to sustain the skills because, as I said, it has to go through a phase where they have to decommission the entire on-premise application and then move on to cloud. Till the time, you should have that expertise and ability to support the existing application. So it's not that you're going to be done away with one application and moving to other. So whatever the skills you have, it's going to stay with you. You're just complementing your skills by learning something new, be it a Fusion CRM, Salesforce, or Microsoft Dynamics. Okay, so that's all I have, and thank you very much, and I'm open for questions. So I will leave it to the moderator to start pushing me the questions.
Dinesh, I've already assigned you the questions.
Okay.
Please
so
check your questions.
Yeah. Sure, thank you, Mogni. I just saw that. Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
okay.
Okay, I'm reading the question actually, so give me 2 minutes. Okay, I just want to set the precedence here actually. I'm not that great an expert, right? So whatever that I'm going to say, it's my personal opinion, and whatever that I've gained, whatever I've learned has something. So please validate it before taking it as a Bible, okay? So first question I have from Mohammed Sajagan. What do you suggest for training in Cloud CRM? Okay. See, as I mentioned, each of the vendors have their own set of training programs. Say, for example, in Fusion, you have Fusion Sales Cloud Implementation Certificate, right? So you can pursue that, and most of the training programs are available in their online site. So for Oracle, they have an Oracle Partner Network, and similarly, if you take a Salesforce or Microsoft Dynamics, they have their own training programs. It's good to get into the education page. So every vendor has got an education page. Go there, inquire about the certification which you have, and consult with your practice leader or the senior person who would actually be launching this initiative or already have an initiative in place, which is the course we need to go for. Okay. So I'm going to the next question by Manish Keshari. What about the risk of data privacy, data theft? Who will guarantee this, and how will the business come to know thefts, privacy breach is not taking place? Okay. See, as I mentioned, one thing which you need to take care of is that if you go for a vendor, right, who is giving you this SaaS CRM offering, ask him about the data security certifications they have, right? For example, if it's a multi-tenant or a single tenant, public cloud, private cloud, how will my data be secured? And as you write a contract with them, right, there's a clear mention about the breach of data, right? So there is a very strong information on the breach of data security. See for that, and if the vendor has given that there is a kind of a penalty and all this, make sure that penalty matches with your expectation, or if you want that to be increased or you need some more certification on that, please check with the vendor. But as of today, there is nothing like to guarantee that the data theft won't happen, because you would have seen it in the news. Even some of the robust infrastructure setups in banks and all this, they have this. But there are some certifications which these data centers or the vendors go through for certifying the data centers. At least make sure those data centers have been certified. Say, for example, if you're working from India, your nearby data center would be sitting on a Singapore or in Australia or in India. It depends on vendor to vendor. Ask a specific information about that particular data center and see the track record. Is there anything that has been breached in the past? So majority of this information, when you ask for the vendor, you would provide it. And there is a question on how to integrate Firewall by Mr. Hanith K.R. Dikshit. So sorry, I am not the right person to answer this because I have not encountered, but I will get back to you. Hanith, if you can drop me a mail, I have my specialist who could help me in answering this question. So next question, in case of breakdown, how do I fall back such as SRT in Cisco? Sorry, once again, the networking part I'm very weak, but I have some experts to answer that. So Ankit, please drop me a note on this 2 questions. I will surely get back to you on this. which all the cloud CRM vendors are there in the market? So as I mentioned, there are so many vendors. This question is by Gaurav Thakkar. There are many vendors in the market, but I would say there are only few reliable vendors, right? So you go for the marquee vendors like an Oracle, Microsoft, SAP, and Salesforce. It's safe either as a consultant whom you want to learn the technology or to choose the product for implementation. Another question same from Gaurav Thakkar. What are the parameters on which we can compare different vendors and perform the selection? This is a good question. Okay, the first thing is that look at their offerings, right? Say for example, if you take a CRM as search, you have sales, marketing, and service modules, right? Look at a vendor who is giving you a comprehensive package. Why I'm saying that is because suppose if you have implemented sales and marketing, and tomorrow you're looking to do something on the service, and this particular vendor doesn't have the service modules. That's one thing which you need to look at. Second, look at the infrastructure capability they have. Look at the contract agreements. If you go to the respective page, they would give you the information about how they are actually securing the data, and look at how the maintenance windows and what is the SLAs that have been providing and all this. A little much of reading of the literature will help to understand. But on a scale of 1 to 5, what is most important here is that application offerings, security, and also the reputation of the vendors. These are the three things which you need to look at. Where is the data stored in the cloud CRM? So the data is stored in the data center of the respective vendors. Okay, but once again there are two things. One is a multi-tenant and a single tenant. Okay, public cloud, private cloud, a lot of things are there. So if you go for a single tenant, what they would do is that within the data center, that there will be a separate data space which is secured for you. That means your data is not mixed up with other customers and identified by a unique record, right? They will carve out a place and give it to you. That's what a single tenant means. But if you look at a Salesforce model, they also have a multi-tenant, right? They have a secured way of maintaining the data. So make sure that other companies don't see the data. But overall, it is not in your premise. It is all maintained in the data center. Next question is from Rishi Raval. Just for getting information, this webinar is related to cloud computing plus business strategy. Yeah, see, I kept it a little generic. Okay, so where we talk about, because there are different types of audience attending this program. So three parts I would say. First is that a lot of questions asked about why should I move to cloud. So that first part of the presentation I was trying to understand or trying to help you with why should I move from Enterprise CRM to Cloud CRM. The second part is that how do I implement a Cloud CRM, and third part is that as a cloud implementer what you need to do. This is how the presentation structure. Is there a similar to SRST, Survival Remote Site Telephony in Cloud, if the connectivity is broken? Anil, sorry once again, I have no answers to the question today. Okay, so I'll surely get back to you on this. Is it possible to limit, configure the data to be stored in the specific data centers? Since few companies' data policies may limit the sensible data stored should be stored only in Europe and US. Okay, that's a very good question. So, see, a lot of this security in the respective countries, they would want the data to be stored in the respective country itself. So one thing is in US. So some of the service providers, say for example Oracle. Oracle predominantly has the data centers in US, in Asia Pacific, in Europe. Say for example, data centers they have in Singapore and Australia, right? So if I'm working in India today, Oracle doesn't have a data center for Fusion CRM in India, but the nearby choice, the nearshore choice for me is to put my data in Singapore and Australia. And once again, these data centers are being secured by a lot of the compliant rules and all that. So at least in US, I understand that the data is not saved in Europe or Asia Pacific. If anything is operated in US, if the license have been procured, the subscriptions have been taken in US, all the data just resides only in the country. Okay, there is another question by Jignesh Thakkar. Future of Cloud CRM or ECM for next 10 years. Okay, see, I would say that there is a long runway for Cloud CRM, right? So people may not believe it, but we have seen it over the years. So cloud is happening today. Whether you like it or not, it's happening. But it's actually in the baby boomer stage today, right? It will reach its maturity over the years you would see that a lot of these cloud players will consolidate and we'll have only few cloud players there. But it's a very strong bet for you to switch your career from whatever you are doing today to a cloud. You can adopt either an Oracle path, you can adopt a Microsoft path or a Salesforce path. For any of these vendors whom you think they are going to have a long runway, the cloud is also going to have a long runway along with them. What about the risk of data privacy, data theft? Who will guarantee this? Okay, so I think I answered this question. Are there any forum or bodies who certify the cloud vendors for data integration? Yes, there are some. I couldn't recollect their names actually, but Oracle or any other vendors, they go for a particular certified agency to get this completely audited. The data centers gets audited before issuing the certification of security, right? And also they have a very frequent audit of the data centers. Okay, so there is a question from Saswati Gupta. She's asked about, she joined the seminar a little late. So what is exactly a cloud-based application as a beginner, how to start with? Okay, so what I would suggest here is that just to try to understand the basics of cloud, right? So it is not like learning a Java or a .NET or any other application. As a beginner, what you need to know is that you go to Google and say cloud computing and try to understand the basics of cloud. What is public cloud, private cloud, multi-tenant, single tenant, how the data is maintained and all this. That's the first step you need to do. The second step is that identify one of the service provider, be it Oracle, SAP, Microsoft, right? Go into the website, start seeing the product offerings they have. And you may choose CRM, you may choose HCM, or you may choose something else. Choose one of the technology. Ask some of the people whom you know are already working in the cloud place, which is a good one for you to take on. Take some advice and then choose one of the technology, and you have some certification path, right? Majority of it's available, and you would see that if you are from any of the cosmopolitan cities, you have a lot of the training institutes that are available, which could train you in some of the basics, right? So you can subscribe for any of these training programs and you can get started from there. And if you get an opportunity, either in this particular platform or in any other technology, when you get into a company, right? Then the company has got a lot of these companies. If you take any of the consulting companies, top major ITs, they're very much in the cloud. So they give you, it depends on the company. Some companies may focus on Salesforce, some companies may focus on Fusion, some on Microsoft Dynamics. Depending on the path they chose, you may get aligned to that, or you may still continue to learn whatever that you prefer to learn and surely try for an opportunity within the company or outside. Okay, there is one question which is asked by Manish Kishari, where he's saying he's a functional professional, not necessarily from a IT background, but he's got a lot of business analyst skills. How he has to get into a cloud space. So one advantage of cloud is that once again it is all driven by the business process. So cloud gives us a different options. As I mentioned, we talked about a little detail about configuration, migration, and integration. There is also a lot of functional roles that are there, especially for you to analyze how we are going to move the modules that are running in Enterprise CRM to the cloud. So there is a lot of business analyst opportunities that are also available. So the people who are not in the technical background, they can always look at taking a functional role. So how can we reduce the maintenance cost of the Cloud CRM as well as the use of Cloud CRM? It's by Muthuram. Okay. When you look at the maintenance actually from a cloud space, from a cloud perspective, it is not that much compared to the on-premise or enterprise CRM. So I would say that actually it is basically just make sure that you have a very limited thin line of maintenance team, which could be within your internal IT team, or it could be some of your super users as well. Okay. What you need to really look at is that when you're going to have the downtime of maintenance from the vendor. So when you know that is a downtime that is coming down the 2 months time, you should plan for the change management of the exercise, telling the respective stakeholders that the application will be down by this time. Even if you're integrating with any other application, go and tell the system owners that the system will be coming down on this time, on this date, make sure we don't have any active exchange of data happening there, right? Or put it on a batch mode. When the application is running, when the application is up again, you push it as a batch mode. So this is some of the maintenance activity which you can look at when you're using the Cloud CRM. Do we have any open source Cloud CRM in the market? Super CRM is actually one of the example, and we have so many other products as well, right? You can look at the Google, it will give you a lot of the open source CRM, right? Once again, but be careful because they may not give you the support which you may get it for a paid subscription. What is a suitable CRM for a financial company? It could be anything. It could be a Salesforce, Microsoft, or a Fusion. But one thing it should be coming from especially for a financial company, make sure they're going with the established vendor, because in financial companies you have a lot of securities policies are there, and it has to be validated. And I assume that a lot of these large-scale major vendors would have the compliance certified. I know a little bit of Salesforce, but if you compare with other cloud providers, what difference we see while developing the apps and customizing CRM functionality? Okay, see, every application, Salesforce or Fusion, they have their own development platform, right? And what I would suggest here is that look at what is the one which could be easy for you to switch, right? If you're working on a .NET technology, say for example, if you're a .NET programmer, or if you're working on Microsoft application, the nearby switch for you is going to be Microsoft Dynamics, right? And if you're looking at a Salesforce, the point here is that Salesforce is a very good application, right? But look at extensibility. If you want to have an ERP system, does Salesforce provide you an HCM cloud? Does Salesforce provide you a supply chain management cloud? Because tomorrow if you take everything into the cloud, you may not have an extension there actually, right? So look at that options of going for that. But Salesforce today is a market leader. There is no competition for Salesforce, but Oracle is soon catching up, and I would say also Microsoft is catching up actually, right? So, but one thing which I want to reinforce again and again here is that all these cloud platforms, right? They just started, and they have a long runway. So whichever that you choose, either it's a Microsoft, Salesforce, Oracle, you need not worry about who is the number one, who is the number two, because over a point of time, each of them will score their own points. The last question I have from Srinivas Kumar Chilmuri: what are the disadvantages in Cloud CRM? Okay. See, if you talk about disadvantages for any application, not necessarily on the cloud, even if you take an Enterprise CRM or even a very strong application which is there in the market for 20 years, there will always be a disadvantages. So one disadvantage which I would see is the integration, right? So today still majority of the vendors, they don't have a very I would say that very strong integration platform, right? There could be multiple reasons for that, because the integration platform today, most of them are trying to be even putting the integration platform on the cloud, right? That is one disadvantage. It is not a very standardized model. We have to go through a couple of twists and turns to understand the real integration. That is one disadvantage. The second disadvantage I would say is that a lot of customizations, right? There are some times where you feel that for your company you need that customization, but it may not be fitting into the data model of the cloud. So in that case, if you are actually subscribed for an application, it doesn't give you a lot of scope for you to customize. At the time, you need to cut down on the customize and try to adopt some functionality which is already available. Okay, I think the rest of the questions I would take it in a mail. Okay, I think we already spent enough time on this, and I would really love to answer the question if I have some more time. So please feel free to shoot this question to my email ID, and thank you very much for attending the session.
Well, thank you so much for answering the questions, Dinesh. It was a great session. I would also like to thank all our participants for their support in making this webinar a success. The recording of the session would be available on techgig.com by evening. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you.